Welcome to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. I am your host, Kenny Groom. I cannot believe we're at this point now. Season 8 is upon us. We're in this new year, new opportunities. I'm excited to bring today's guest to the stage. He has presented me with an incredible opportunity that I just had to make sure that our audience is aware of. Our guest today is Ty Smith. He is a pretty seasoned. I would say you're definitely seasoned in terms of the sales space, Todd, but you've got this new endeavor in terms of big stage energy, really bringing conferences to the masses. Like conferences, just navigating this space over the last year or so for myself, it can be rather complex, figuring out where to go, who to connect with. And Ty and his co-founding team, which we will dig into, have put together a package that I myself partake in. So I want to put that out there as well. But so far, so good for me in terms of the connections I'm making, and then just helping me acclimate myself to the conference world. So without further ado, let's bring Ty to the stage to have this incredible conversation. How's it
Hey,
going,
how's it
Ty?
going? Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming on the platform today. To talk a little bit about big stage energy. I definitely want to dig into your background as well. But let's set the stage. Tell our listeners, like, what were you doing before putting this big stage energy together? Like, what was taking up all your time? Because I definitely want to set the stage for why big stage energy came to be through the work that you're doing now. So set the stage for us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing. So, I mean, my whole background is really just being kind of a traditional, just tech person, more so on the sales side. I've done plenty of tech sales roles throughout like Comcast or Cox Business, Rapid Scale. I ventured into the IT consulting side of it during the later stage of my career where I was helping out resellers and really starting to like go to events to kind of meet partners and folks that can sell the products that I was offering through the corporate company that I was at. And then from there, this was right around about like 2020, while I was still, at my role as a channel manager, I started to get involved with some of the different conferences that were going on. Now, keep in mind, like these are a lot of the like identity-based conferences. So some of them were like culture-based conferences, or they were gender-based conferences. And really, what I was helping with was really just providing just some content related to tech sales or IT consulting, because a lot of the tech conferences around that time were more so focused on software development. And, really they needed just help with like bringing speakers or bringing topics and ideas. So it kind of went from working with one conference to another conference to another conference, really just independently. And then it just kind of spread over into all sorts of conferences from, the East Coast to the West Coast. It started to kind of spread internationally. And then over the course of basically 5 years, I essentially touched over 100 plus conferences from the USA to Canada to West Africa and then Europe as well. And really just grew into like a little side business of a conference consultancy where we're doing ref shares and, project fees and all sorts of stuff. My co-founder was largely doing the same thing, very similar background. So when we got together last year, we one realized that like this whole market of chasing down rev shares and fees and all that wasn't really sustainable. So that's where we decided to kind of like throw away our old model and just rebuild everything and just build the big stage energy community that essentially allows people to attend conferences for free and in exchange for conference tickets that we get from these events.
I think that's dope. Ty, I actually met you at a conference. I think we met at, was it Black Tech Week in Cincinnati? I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
so. And so just to see you, like, that's your element, like being at conferences, like I appreciate you for explaining it, but I don't think people truly like have like they don't truly understand, like there's certain people that fit perfectly no matter the conference. Like it's just like you live and breathe that stuff, and just seeing you on display the networking, just the connecting that you were doing from that first conference. And we've been in contact ever since. And so when I saw that you were doing Big Stage Energy, I was like, duh, like this makes sense. So much sense for somebody like Ty to put together. And then you're leveraging your network that you've built over the last, wow, we're in at this point 6-7 years, right? Conferences is a business in and of itself, right? Just conference season. I know we talked a little bit about that, and we'll dig into that. But it just makes so much sense for you to be doing this right now, man. I just wanted to put that out there. Let let
Yeah,
uh
appreciate it.
let's talk a little bit about like what was missing, I guess, that prompted you to put this together in this sort of package. Like what was truly missing from the conference experience for those folks who are now your really your audience?
Yeah, so I would say for us, we went through like a few different iterations as we were trying to like rebuild um, this company and coming together and working together. So myself and my co-founder Jared Alberton, because we were two independent conference consultants, just working with these conferences and helping out on all sorts of stuff, from influencer partnerships to speakers to keynotes to sponsors, to all sorts of stuff. So we basically realized there's a few gaps in the ecosystem. One is that the sponsorship model is a little tricky because typically when you work with conferences, there's like a rev share that you're entitled to when you bring a sponsor to a conference, whether it's 15% to 20%. So the only challenge with that is that like if the conference has an internal team, it's tough for them to work with an external team. And sometimes there's people on the outside that have tons and tons of connections. And with our organization, we partner with over 300 plus companies that sponsor conferences and events. So, we, really had a cool way to bring folks to these conferences that might be interested in sponsoring, but there wasn't really a way to kind of work with their business development teams unless we did it where we didn't collect any type of like commissions on that, which definitely worked, But then the trade off was now on the other side, you have a lot of people that want to go to conferences. Our inbox is always flooded with folks that are just like, hey, like, let me know if you have an extra ticket. Hey, do you have an extra +1? Or hey, I know you're close to this conference founder. Are they giving away any free tickets or whichever? And myself and Jared, we've largely given away a ton of free tickets. Most people in our circle and that know us have probably gotten a free ticket to something at some point in time. Whether it's a mixer or an event or whichever, we were very generous on like just helping people get to events. But then we kind of realized like, maybe we can kind of put those two things together because conferences need sponsors and they need sponsors by more than one source, not just their internal teams. They need other people on the outside to bring companies to them. And then people want to attend conferences and can't spend $500, $300, $200, $1,000 per conference and event because you're already paying for travel and hotel. So this was really a cool way of just like, you know what, let's work with these conferences, let's get some tickets and let's give these tickets to our community. And then people will just basically just pay just annually to have access to all these tickets. And it really just seemed a way to kind of fix both problems at the same time. And it also helped our companies that we work with. We work with all these telecom companies and cloud companies that want to sponsor the right events. So it really allows us to kind of help those three groups simultaneously.
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's a whole kind of like marketplace ecosystem like that you and Jared have put together. Talk a little bit about like going at this with a co-founder. Um a lot of our guests that we have on, they're doing it solo dolo. So talk a little bit about you know, what are some of the benefits to going at this as a collective, as a team? Because some people don't necessarily even look that route when they're creating something new, something fresh that hasn't really been put together before. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think like it's it's definitely good to kind of know like what percentage of like your market share that you have and who the other competitors are, and to kind of like see like does it make sense to just work together. Because with our ecosystem, I mean things are a little off the radar, right? Like if Coke and Pepsi joined together, there would be a lot of uproar, regulatory issues for that to happen. But in a market that people really aren't checking for when it comes to like culture conferences, like Jared and I largely had kind of a duopoly on relationships with conference founders. We've worked with just about every single, I guess you can say, like culture and tech, like that genre, which encompasses about like 70 different conference founders just in the USA alone. We've worked with just about all of them. They've worked with either myself or Jared at some point in time. Jared did the Afro Tech virtual events, back in like the early 2020s. Then he was doing Black Tech Week Media, and then I was doing things with Diversitech, and then I was also helping out like Baddies in Tech with some stuff and Sisters in Sales, and he was helping out Render, and there like we've touched almost all of them. So it was really just one of those things of just like, you know what, we can go against each other and build the same business and really just drive each other's prices down all the way to zero, and
Mm-hmm.
then it just kind of confuse the market and have them choose between you or me, or we can just work together in the interim, technically monopolize the market a bit, because we have these relationships that we've built. It took us 5 years to get a lot of these like strong relationships, and then just really just run this up to a point where there's a big enough moat where a lot of folks won't be able to kind of catch up to where we're at. And I think that was really kind of the whole mindset behind it.
Yeah, I think that's dope, man. Like you said, having it, realizing the state of the market, and then how you both can come together. Like you said, some people are definitely pro competition to your point, but I'm more so pro monopoly. So if you can have a monopoly, why not? And in this space, it just like you said, there's always someone trying to do it on their own, when it comes to conferences and things like that. And so now we're at a point now where, even like you said, you're having conversations with the people who are putting on the conferences, and now they need resources. They need a supply chain, a consistent supply chain. You guys can really be that partner for them when it comes to visibility and access and all those good things. I'm curious, because you just touched on something. I'm a big proponent of B2B businesses. At this point, just seeing more folks kind of, create businesses where that is the focus. In this case, the business here is the business of conferences, where there's a lot of money spent, whether it be the sponsors, like you mentioned, or just the amount of money people spend to go to conferences now. I don't have to tell our listeners, but if they've ever in the last few years searched for pricing to attend one of the big name conferences, the tickets alone are crazy. You touched on the room and board and the travel and everything else. You got to have some deep pockets to go to all these conferences. So why not tap in with big stage energy? But I'm curious along those lines when it comes to servicing your customers, who are ultimately those the people putting on the conference founders. Are there any areas where you're seeing that they'd like to see more businesses or more services be created for them, for the folks that
Yeah, I mean,
this?
I think yeah, I think that there's like some definitely there's some gaps right now. I think that you know so speaking about just, if we just talk about like the culture and tech vertical, for example, and what I mean by culture and tech is just any type of like cultural group that has a tech conference, whether we're talking about Latinas in tech or Afro tech or Black women talk tech or et cetera, et cetera. Out in tech is another one, all of those different groups. So if we think about kind of like the wave of those organizations, many of them in the beginning, it was the fact that like they were pretty much bringing top talent. And this is like, we're talking pre 2020. It was just bringing top talent from all these different sources, whether it's, from top universities or, people that worked at, really high end tech companies, big tech companies that really just didn't really have a lot of like options or opportunities to kind of like meet other folks in the ecosystem that can help them move up or help them get hired, and they didn't really have like a safe space to kind of like come together and network and really collaborate with each other. So like the first wave of those conferences, it was really just like they're going to these talent acquisition companies, these big tech organizations, and then those tech organizations are basically like, hey, we want to get more talent. We're having this is post recession. We're having a tech boom. We got a lot of investment. There's a lot of folks to hire. You all have a unique lock on some talent that we don't have access to. We want to pay to be here to hire some folks.
Mhm.
And then it kind of switched a little bit after 2020. And after 2020, we did have some incidents such as, George Floyd, but there was also some other things that were going on, around the time of just the pandemic. And there was this whole concept of like right sizing, like, hey, we have a non-diverse employee base. We want to right size it. And we want to make sure that like we have diverse people across our leadership and across our frontline roles and our mid-career roles. So a lot of the money that was coming in, it was different sources. It's still HR talent acquisitions, but it also had some chief diversity officers, which became a new thing, post 2020, and some ERG leaders as well. And that really became the focus. And that's where you saw a second wave of conferences that were largely very blatant about like what they were about, whether it's like a Black Men in Tech or Baddies in Tech or a Sisters in Sales or et cetera. It was pretty much capturing that market of funding that was available. And now we're moving into a space where we're talking about 2025 and beyond, where it's largely not really about diverse talent anymore, or it's not about the fact that we're trying to like right size or do anything like that. It's really just about business development and making sales. So, the opportunity right now is the fact that like a lot of these companies, they just want to make some sales. And a lot of these conferences have folks in there that can make decisions on technology and other products and services. A lot of these conferences have these great keynote speakers that are CIOs and CTOs or C-level leaders. They have VPs in the room. And these companies are just like, we are spending so much money on our business development to try to get to these people. Your conference has an entire speaker room of these people. If you let us know who's going to be in there and it's on our list of people that we want to target, we will come down and sponsor. And I think right now the gap is really just the fact that when conferences, this is a really big gap. If someone wants to, run with this is the whole thing. So I kind of gave the backstory. This is the idea, right? If conferences did a good job on finding out who is the actual person buying the ticket, not just name, email, and here's Apple Pay and buy the ticket. I'm talking about really finding out who is that person, like what company is that person at, what role are they at, how long have they been there, do they have decision making power, if so at what dollar amount, what products and services have they bought for their company in the past 6 months. These aren't like wild questions. Informa, who's like the largest conference company in the world, or one of the largest, this is what they do on anytime you want to buy a ticket to any Informa conference. It's literally 3 pages of information that you have to fill out in order to get a ticket. And I feel like if conferences did that, or if there was a company that basically just created that ticketing model for conferences, then that data, they could easily now run that to these new wave of sponsors that just want to make sales. And the sponsors that they can get will flow a lot easier in comparison to the model right now. And that goes also for networking events and anything where you can have people there.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I can't, and to your point, most of the conferences I've attended over the last 2 to 3 years, there isn't, especially specifically the cultural ones, I feel like there isn't necessarily that focus on like buyer persona or like you said, like really drilling down. But I mean, I've been into even some of the cultural conferences, right? Like there's still CTOs there, there's still CIOs. These are people who are decision makers, and most of the conversations have been leaning towards like candidates, job candidates, kind of like asking them, hey, like in person, like, hey, how do I get a job? How do I get in the funnel? Versus to your point, like if you got a service, you got a solution that you're selling as well, there probably needs to be some specific cutout of time at some of these conferences specifically for that. And the data tracking alone that you mentioned, I know that's worth a pretty penny. So listeners out there, Ty's giving us ideas. This conference space is definitely here to stay. conference money, it's probably ebbed and flowed, like you said, and since the 20 early 2020s, right? There was a little bit more focus on, you know, like what you said, diversity of your workforce, things like that. And now companies got to make sure like the revenue is coming in, the sales are coming in. And so we're still in an exciting time, but then some of the conversations have probably changed a bit in terms of what people are looking to get out of these conferences. I'm curious, as you're having conversations, and some of our listeners, they're probably, gearing up to go on their conference season this year. What are some tips you give folks in terms of like working these rooms? Not the secret sauce, right? But in terms of like some of the things you got to do. Like here's some of the things you got to do to make sure you're maximizing your time in these spaces.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to work in a room, I mean the way that I see it is, I take it back to kind of Pokemon cards in a way, and I know that this kind is going to sound a little crazy, but I think that just whatever contact that you have, it's not about if it's a contact for you, it's about if it's a contact for someone else. So if you meet people out and about at these events, your first five people that you meet probably won't be relevant for you. If you are a, let's say, graphic designer and you're looking to meet with companies to maybe get hired on as a full-time graphic designer, and you meet like a tech salesperson, or you meet someone that is like, let's say, an investor of a company, or you meet someone that maybe they throw conferences, and maybe someone else that you meet is a podcaster, and maybe the next person that you meet is a student that is looking for an internship. None of those people are completely relevant for this graphic designer that just wants, a full-time role. But what a lot of people are quick to do is basically take those contacts and throw them away and completely just, forget that they exist, maybe exchange on LinkedIn, but that's it. Like it's like they weren't relevant, they're gone. The key is to actually hold on to those contacts, because you're going to meet other people that might need some of those contacts. You might now meet your sixth person, might be someone that, hey, I have a program at my company where I'm looking for interns. And now it's like, hey, I have an intern for you. But now I wonder what contact that person has. Because now it's like, hey, I'll trade you this intern that I met. In exchange, maybe you can trade me someone that is hiring for a graphic designer.
Mm,
Or you have a founder that is looking for an investor. Hey, I just met an investor. I don't need this contact. I'll give you this contact of this investor. But founder, maybe another startup founder that's trying to hire a graphic designer. Maybe we can trade contacts. And that's the whole method. Like it's all about trading contacts in the same way that we used to do when we used to trade Pokemon cards or trade basketball cards and all of that. It's just doing that in real life with real people.
that's a bar there, Ty. I like that. I definitely like that Pokemon analogy. And this idea of I mean, I'm stuck on this word, just like the supply chain, right? Like you said, like there may be somebody who's of very little value, right, to your core business, but something that they do could be of value for somebody else in your network, and really plugging those two. It still opens up opportunities for you, and you don't quite get that transaction or that sale in that moment, but that's like paying it forward. Is the way that I like to position it. But that's definitely a gem there, Ty. So let's pivot a little bit, because I've been fascinated with um the decision that you and Jared made around picking the you picked the school, the platform, and I've been seeing some people specifically building communities there. Like what so far, are there any like big, any key takeaways, any big wins with building specifically a community in that format, that you all have kind of taken and kind of run with and say, hey, look, like this is validation that these things are working?
Yeah, I would say for us, so going with school and really just looking at the community model, I think was really just figuring out a way where we can kind of put everyone in the same space. So we can provide like notifications and updates for people, but we can also provide like different threads for the different tickets and events that we drop, because we didn't want it to just be like, hey, here's like a board of different tickets. We want to kind of make it social, so I can like post like, hey, here's tickets to BlurredCon, for example, and then have people post under like, hey, I'm going, oh, I'm going, oh, I'm going. So now people can kind of squat up, because that's really the whole goal, is to like build this out, large enough so that every time we post a ticket, there's like 20 people in the comments like, hey, I'm going, like who's linking up with me, like I'm flying in on Tuesday, are we going and getting breakfast, and et cetera, et cetera. It's really to kind of create that experience. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of went the route that we went with community platforms, and we were looking for a platform specifically that kind of like allowed us to do that. The second feature was actually the map as well. Just having the map there, we can kind of see where people are at, is also a cool thing too, because we're talking about conferences and traveling. So now people can reach out like, hey, I'm in Philly. Like I saw you're in that area. Like let's catch up.
Yeah, that platform. There's just something about the new wave of platforms that are out now. I don't know, like they figured out how to, like reignite like gamification and things like that. And like it just is fun being like when I log in and I'm logging into Big Stage Energy, like I'm like, all right, let me look and see who's like you said, who's commenting on the things. Obviously, you and Jared are keeping the tickets flowing. So I obviously go to that as well and say, like, okay, what should I be plugging in addition to that, but then really connecting with the others in the community. I appreciate even like I think it was like the first day or two, you really specifying, like after I did my little intro, my little elevator, you were like, hey, here's who you need to meet with, boom, boom, boom. And you laid out those individuals. Now I've been slowly but surely checking off that list. Like these are simple things, but that's really what makes a community grow, what makes it seem like it's organically, folks are finding their way organically on it. So I appreciate you and Jared, and that platform specifically. Um, the handful of times I have interacted with it, for whatever reason, the communities, they're a little bit more sticky, if I can say it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Man, I'm so excited. To tell folks a little bit about, I guess, how, if they were to want to connect with Big Stage Energy, like how do they go about, tapping in with you or Jared? Like what's the preferred route for them to start learning more about how they can maximize their conference experience this year and moving forward?
Yeah, so we're basically Big Stage Energy on all platforms. Our website is bigstage.energy. So if you're looking for us on IG, that's really how you find us, bigstage.energy. We do webinars. So each month we do a series of webinars. It kind of depends on the week, but definitely like keep in touch with our socials. And our webinars are cool because we just talk about all of our just fun hacks when it comes to like travel hacks, conference hacks, like how do I get from one place to another? How do I fly from this location to that location without spending a lot? Like, how do I, go to a conference and just make sure I talk to the right people within a short amount of time, and just like all the little things. So that is basically inside of our webinars. Is just a bunch of free information that we give, and then we let people know, how to join Big Stage Energy. But to find out about our community, bigstage.energy is the sign up page, but also we have an informational page as well that some people like, which is bigstageaccess.com. And that just kind of gives you just some like background info about Big Stage Energy and what we do and how the community works, and et cetera, et cetera. And also on LinkedIn, you can find me there, Ty Smith.
Yeah, y'all both. I was gonna say y'all are pretty active on LinkedIn, for sure. So you will not miss Ty or Jared. If you look for them on LinkedIn, you will definitely find their content. Yeah, I appreciate you, Taj, for hopping on with me. I am excited about leveraging the platform this year. I'm already leveraging it in terms of the conferences we're going to for this year. Even the media pass front, you all are helping me have some direction there. So I definitely appreciate you all putting this together. I say it's affordable, but I want folks to make sure that they check it out themselves and really tap in. Last thought, I want to pass it to you. What do you want our listeners, folks listening to this, like what's that one thing they should change as they go about conferences specifically, let's stick there. Like, what in terms of mindset, like what do they need to change in order to get the most out of these experiences?
Yeah, I think it's really just, sometimes people go to the conferences where everyone's trying to do the same thing. So, for example, like I can speak to this. Well, at the time of recording, as a single guy, right? So, if I am now going out there, and let's say at the time of recording this, Valentine's Day is around the corner, but if I'm going out and I'm trying to find a Valentine's, if I go to an event and a mixer and it's just a bunch of just like if the ratio is not there, if let's say I'm looking for a lady and I'm going to an event and it's like 95% males and I'm trying to find a female to date, then I'm probably not going to be as successful. And that's kind of what people do at conferences. That's like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Let me go to a conference where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of other people that are looking for a job. And that isn't really the right strategy to utilize. There's another way to kind of pivot it. So, for example, with conferences, there's a lot of conferences you could go to that are straight business to business based conferences. So these are conferences where you have executives, VPs, you have directors, you have all these folks. But the thing about those conferences with those directors and VPs and everything is that if you go to those, you'll probably be one of the few job seekers that's there, because most people are just there to kind of do some transaction or do some sales. But the people that you encounter, these executives, these are the folks that actually have the budgets and the power to open up a role. They're the folks that tell the recruiter, hey, move this person to the next round so I can interview them. Like, they are the ones that can meet someone and say, you know what, like, you would be great. We need another marketing person. Let me actually put that in for the next quarter to add a marketing person, and I want you to interview for this. And
Mhm.
that's what happens when you go to these conferences that are kind of like off ratio. For example, for me, right? Like, if I, going back to that scenario about Valentine's Day, if I really want to find a Valentine's, and potentially maybe I should volunteer at an event that is largely going to have more women, maybe something that deals with whichever. I'm not, I don't have that magic answer, but whether it was a conference about, it could be about flowers or whichever, like, that's where I would want to go. And I think that's the way that people need to think about it when it comes to your conference experience. Like, go to the events where you'll be one of the only people there trying to do what you're trying to do, and that have people there that have the power to enable you to do what you're trying to do. And that's my main advice.
I love that time, man. Like, you hit the nail on the head. People go to some of these conferences and it's just gonna like work out. And then specifically on that job front, like there's conferences where thousands, if not tens of thousands of people are going for a job. And it's like there aren't that many jobs. Like, you gotta play the numbers as well. So I appreciate you dropping that gem, closing us out for our listeners. Make sure you tap in with Big Stage Energy. I can't say that enough. And I'll be looking forward to seeing how the platform grows. For our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another incredible episode with myself and today's guest, Ty Smith. Appreciate it. Peace.
All right. Thanks for having me.